So in the East, we have the Boston Celtics taking on the Toronto Raptors, the defending NBA champions. Who are you taking, Liam?
For me, I'm taking the Boston Celtics. They're playing the reigning NBA champs, but without Kawhi Leonard. They've obviously adapted, but I think the Celtics are a much better team than they were last season. You take out Kyrie, you replace him with Kemba. Obviously, both clutch players, so you kind of get the same thing there. I think Kemba a lot more unselfish. Happy to let Tatum and Brown shine as they should be. Obviously, in this series, they're without Hayward. I don't think he's coming back for this series, but I think with the three All-Stars that they have in Tatum, Brown, and Kemba, you got Marcus Smart, who I just love defensively. I think he causes a lot of chaos whenever the other team has the ball.
For me, I'm also going to have to go with the Boston Celtics. You know, the first thing you learn about in stock trading is there's a difference between penny stocks and blue chips. You have the Toronto Raptors. You got a bunch of undrafted players, all great players in their own right. And yeah, the NBA is all about blue chip talent. You can't win without superstars, and that's exactly what the Boston Celtics have that the Toronto Raptors don't.
Did any of you guys know who Vanvleet was 2 years ago? Or Siakam? I mean, Siakam was there, but he wasn't. He's just been getting better and better every season. He's pretty much filled the Kawhi void that was left when Kawhi left. And they're also, the reigning champs. I mean, they know how to win. I mean, they might have lost this first game, but they were shooting pretty poorly, and Marcus Smart randomly had a good shooting game, which is rare for him. Yeah.
You know what? I'm actually going to change my mind. I also am choosing the Toronto Raptors. I think Alex is right. You have championship DNA in that roster. Sure, they lost Kawhi Leonard, but they actually played better last year without Kawhi Leonard. And obviously you have Siakam stepping into that new role as the number one, but they don't need him to take game-winning shots. They don't need him to take the crunch time shots because they have Lowry, they have Vanvleet for that. So I think I'm changing my mind. I think I'm going with the Toronto Raptors for this series. I think last year Boston they won the first game by a lot against Milwaukee, and then they just lost 4 in a row. I think that's going to happen again.
So you're comparing the closers in Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet to Jayson Tatum and Kemba Walker. It's not even close. It's not even close who I'm giving the ball to with 24 seconds left on the shot clock. Celtics have the better closers, got the better players, I'm not gonna say better coach. I think coaching wise they're quite equal. But I mean, if you go back to the regular season, Celtics 3-1. They start this series off with the upset winning game 1. I just think that they've got the Raptors worked out. They've got them worked out. 4-1 this season, soon to become 7-1. I think the Celtics sweep. I think they get out the brooms and they say, "See you later, Toronto."
What? You know what? I'm changing back to the Boston Celtics. I think Liam's right. They have proven success against the Toronto Raptors. 3-1 in the regular season. Now that I hear that, the Raptors are simply they're a well-coached team, but Liam's right. Without the superstars, without the shot makers and the shot creators, I don't see how Toronto can beat them.
Toronto are the miracle team, mate. They've just last year to win their championship. It was just miracle upon miracle for that team to win. I mean,
100%. They've got that big asterisk next to the championship.
100%.
Only won it due to injuries to the other team.
Yep.
So I'm looking at it from like a fate perspective, and it looks like the ball's in their court when it comes to fate. They've just been lucky. They got a matchup with the Nets in the first round. I mean, anyone could have beaten them. Even like they had no one.
Not the Magic. Not the Magic. But the Bucks still somehow lose to the Magic in the. Yeah.
What was it, like $28 odds for the Magic to win the first game and they won?
I definitely think the Boston Celtics are under the radar in terms of championship hopes. Everyone's choosing people from the West. They're choosing the Bucks. But yeah, this Boston Celtics seems they got that DNA. They got that DNA that they have the blue chip talent. Just can't deny it. I mean, Raptors. Let's be fair here. they do have some really nice undrafted players. They've developed their players really well. Like, they have a bunch of random guys dropping 20 every other game. Like, I can't name a single player on the Raptors.
I think for me, the Raptors remind me of I don't know. They remind me of a better version, a slightly better version than the Thunder. You see what the Thunder are doing against the Rockets in the opening round of the Western Conference. They're all playing with that chip on their shoulder. You know, they're not that blue chip talent. So I think you know, always got to be wary of the underdog. I think if the Celtics get complacent, you know, they're now favourites to win the series. You know, that could become a factor, because I think the Raptors like playing with their backs against the wall. I don't think they, you know, handle the pressure all that well. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they cope with that for the rest of the series.
I think the big thing here is, I think I agree with you. Like, Raptors are very similar to OKC. They're a good team. They work well together as a team. And the thing that worries me about Boston is, I mean, we saw it last year. They just would have these cold streaks throughout like their games where they'd just miss, you know, 8 shots in a row. And they would have to come back, you know, make a furious comeback towards the end of the game to win it. And I think if they get some of that complacency that you're talking about, they could very well be in that situation late in games. They could just sleep on the Raptors and just, you know, and miss, especially with, you know, Jayson Tatum taking some of his mid-range shots. If they scheme for that, then we could be having some problems in Boston Celtics Led.
I think that's where the addition of Kemba is such a big addition to this team, because last year in the playoffs there was no Kyrie, and I mean, you could argue the Celtics played better without him. And now this year you've got Kemba, you've got a healthy Kemba. You know, he had that time off during the COVID lockdown, I suppose, to get healthy, and I think that's huge. I don't think Kemba's been playing to his full potential for a while now, and I think now that you've got him firing, you've got 3 offensive weapons in Tatum, Brown, and Kemba. So if one of them's having an off night, or if one of them's gone through like a shooting slump, you know, you've got the other offensive weapons to lift.
You could kind of make the argument that this series is similar in a way to the OKC Houston series, because you got the blue chips, who are your Boston and your Houston. You got like the star players in there, and then you got your penny stocks who are Toronto and OKC. I mean, OKC was just a reject team. They had no like playoff aspiration really, and they made it. I mean, and I look at Toronto the same way. You know, they can cause an upset. They play well together, and at the end of the day, a team that plays well together tends to not choke games.
Yeah, I think, definitely would be dumb to discount the reigning NBA champion in any of these games. They've shown that they haven't gone through a slump. They're as good as they've ever been, minus that superstar, obviously. But, you know, we could easily see, you know, Boston have a bad game and drop, you know, 3, and before they know it, they're in a game 7. And I think that first game is maybe not a great indicator of what's to come. Boston got a lot of turnover points, a lot of, you know, fast break points, so that might not happen again. Toronto,
can easily be fixed by Toronto, and you know, you've got the coach of the year at Toronto, and you know, teams usually they bounce back. You know, they bounce back. That's probably not going to happen again in game 2.
I guess we'll see. We'll see when Boston wins it in 4.